In the village forgotten by time, where the sun rarely pierced the thick mountain mist, there lived a man named Elias. Elias was known by everyone as the one who sees. He had a peculiar gift, or so he believed. With a single glance, he could identify the most secret essence of any person. All it took was crossing paths with someone on the street for him to feel, with absolute certainty, who that person truly was. That one is a liar, he would think upon seeing the baker. She's cold and calculating, he would conclude about the teacher. This man doesn't have the courage for anything, he would decide about the blacksmith. And so Elias lived, cataloguing souls, filing away judgments, building a world where each person had a label, a tag, a final sentence that he and only he was capable of deciphering. On a particularly grey afternoon, when even the crows seemed to fly in silence, a stranger arrived in the village. He wore a worn cloak in indeterminate tones, neither black nor grey nor brown, as if all colours had conspired to create something that was no colour at all. The stranger spoke to no one. He simply settled into an abandoned house on the outskirts of the village, the very same house no one had dared to inhabit since the Great Fire years before. Elias naturally watched, studied, analyzed, but something extraordinary happened. For the first time in his life, he could not see. It was as if the stranger were made of mist, of absence, of nothingness, and this disturbed Elias in a way he had never imagined possible. "I need to know who he is," he repeated to himself night after night. "I need to see him." For weeks, Elias followed the stranger. He watched him from afar, hiding behind corners, peering through fogged windows. But the man seemed to do absolutely nothing. He walked, he sat, he gazed at the horizon. Sometimes he simply remained still for hours, and the more Elias observed, the more frustrated he became. Because when he looked at the man, a troubling sensation arose within him. It was like staring into a mirror covered in dust, where the reflected image is so blurred that one cannot tell what is reflection and what is grime. Until one night, on the brink of obsession, Elias decided to confront him directly. He knocked on the door of the abandoned house. The stranger opened it, no surprise on his face, as if he'd been expecting that visit all along. "Who are you?" Elias demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. The stranger smiled. Not a mocking smile, but one of unsettling tenderness. "Sit," he said simply, pointing to a chair beside the cold fireplace. Against all his instincts, Elias sat down. "For weeks," the stranger began, "you have been watching me, and tell me, what did you see?" "Nothing," Elias admitted, and the word came out like a confession of defeat. "You're like a void. I can't see you." "Can't you?" The stranger leaned forward slightly. "Or is it that, for the first time, you found nothing in me of what you were looking for?" The question hung in the air, heavy as lead. The stranger stood and walked to a shelf. From it, he took something wrapped in dark cloth. He slowly unwrapped it, revealing an old mirror with an ornate frame, but a strangely fragmented surface, not broken, but composed of dozens of irregular pieces, each reflecting at a slightly different angle. "Look," he said, placing the mirror before Elias. Elias looked, and what he saw took his breath away. In the fragmented mirror, each shard reflected a different version of himself. In one fragment, he appeared as an arrogant man, eyes filled with contempt. In another, he saw a coward, hunched and fearful. In a third, a liar with a false smile. In yet another, someone cold, calculating, incapable of feeling. All the labels he had always placed on others were there, but placed on him. "What is this?" he whispered, his voice trembling. "It is the truth you never wanted to see," the stranger replied gently. "When you look at the baker and see a liar, you are seeing the lie you keep within yourself. When you look at the teacher and see coldness, you are seeing the emotion you have blocked in your own heart. When you see cowardice in the blacksmith, you are seeing the fear you deny in yourself." Elias wanted to argue, wanted to deny it, but the words died in his throat. Because for the first time, he recognized the deep and painful truth in those words. "Each person is a mirror," the stranger continued, sitting down again. "But they do not reflect themselves. They reflect you. Others show you not who they are, but the parts of yourself you have not yet integrated, the shadows you have not yet brought into the light, the wounds you have not yet healed." "So, I have never truly seen anyone?" Elias asked, and in the question there was an ocean of pain. "You have," the stranger replied, "but through glass darkened by your own shadow. You have seen others through the lenses of your fears, your rejections, your denials, and in doing so, you never truly knew them. You only knew yourself in a fragmented and projected way." The silence that followed was dense, almost physical. "And you?" Elias finally asked. "Why can't I see you?" The stranger smiled again, and this time there was something deeply sorrowful in that smile. "Because I project nothing. I have accepted all my shadows, integrated all my fragments. When there is no inner shadow, there is nothing to project outward. That is why I seem empty to you, not because I am empty, but because you have nowhere to hang your judgments on me." Elias spent the night in that house. He did not sleep. He sat before the fragmented mirror and, for the first time in his life, truly looked at himself. He saw the arrogance born from the fear of not being enough. He saw the coldness built to protect a heart that had been wounded too many times. He saw the cowardice he hid beneath the mask of critical judgment. He saw the small lies he had told himself to avoid facing greater truths. And as he saw, something extraordinary happened. The fragments of the mirror began to move, not physically, but somehow beyond the physical. They rearranged, aligned, integrated. When the sun finally broke through the mist the following morning, something that had not happened in years in that village, Elias stepped out of the house transformed. In the days that followed, Elias began to see people differently. He looked at the baker and, instead of a liar, saw a man struggling with the shame of not being able to provide for his family as he wished. And he felt compassion. He looked at the teacher and, instead of coldness, saw someone who had built walls to protect herself from a world that had deeply hurt her, and he felt empathy. He looked at the blacksmith and, instead of cowardice, saw a man carrying the weight of expectations he had never managed to fulfill. And he felt understanding. For the first time, he saw people not through the dark filter of his own shadows, but through the light of an integrated acceptance of himself. Weeks later, when Elias returned to the house on the outskirts of the village to thank the stranger, he found it empty, as if no one had ever lived there. Only the mirror remained, but now its surface was completely smooth, unified, without fragments. And when Elias looked into it, he saw only his true reflection, neither enlarged nor diminished, simply real. Beside the mirror there was a note. When you integrate all your shadows, you will stop seeing them in others, and then, at last, you will see people as they truly are, mirrors of the divine, just like you. The journey does not end here, it begins. For now that you see clearly within yourself, you can help others see clearly within themselves. And Elias understood the deep and eternal truth. You see in others not what they are, but what you project in the dark. The people who irritate you the most are those who reflect the parts of yourself you most reject. The qualities you admire in others are those that exist within you, still unrecognized. The judgments you make are the judgments you make about yourself. Every criticism is a confession in disguise. Every judgment is a fogged mirror. Every projection is an invitation to self-discovery. And when you finally accept all your shadows, when you integrate all your fragments, when you open your arms to everything you are, light and darkness, strength and fragility, certainty and doubt, then and only then, others cease to be distorted mirrors. They simply become human, just like you. You have reached the end of this parable, but one question remains suspended in the air, like that mirror in the abandoned house. And you? What mirrors have you been looking into lately? This story is not merely to be heard, it is to be lived. It is an invitation to look into your own fragmented mirror and ask, what shadows have I been projecting? What parts of myself do I see reflected in others? If this parable touched something within you, if you felt that shiver of recognition, that deep unease that only truth can provoke, then become part of this community of seekers. Subscribe to this channel not out of obligation, but because you recognize that you are on a journey of integration and transformation, and you want to continue awakening. And here is the most important invitation. Go to the comments and share. It does not have to be long. It does not have to be elaborate. Simply respond, which mirror challenges you the most to look at? It can be a word, a phrase, a reflection. By sharing, you not only integrate what you have learned, but you create a ripple of awakening. Because when someone reads your comment, they may recognize themselves, and in that recognition, there is magic. Remember, you see in others not what they are, but what you project in the dark. Illuminate your shadows, and watch how the world around you transforms. Until the next parable.